very good morning, a very good afternoon to everyone, and thank you for joining this session. I am Api Melekivakana Singa, and I'm the Trade Promotion Officer from Infofish, and I will be highlighting to you all on the state of seafood in Asia Pacific, looking at the changes that have happened, the opportunities that are available, and also looking at future outlooks. So I'll probably just share my screen. Just to give you a quick background on the organization that I work for, Infofish is a intergovernmental organization that was established in 1981 to provide marketing information and also on technical advisory services to the fisheries industries in the Asia Pacific region and beyond. We have about 13 member countries, and these countries include Fiji, PNG, Solomon Islands, Philippines, Malaysia, Thailand, Cambodia, Maldives, Pakistan, Iran, Sri Lanka, and Bangladesh. We also have interest from countries in the Southeast Asia region, such as Indonesia and Vietnam, to join Infofish as members. We provide training programs, workshops, and seminars to these member countries. We've also organized conferences such as the Shrimp Conference, the World Tuna Forum, the Pacific Tuna Forum, as well as the Ornamental Fish Conference. We also execute or conduct a variety of projects in the field of trading, marketing, processing, aquaculture, and fisheries. Infofish is part of a fish info network of fish marketing and information services. We have our office is based here in Malaysia, but we also have partner organizations in China called InfoU. We have InfoPachi in West Africa, InfoSamak in Morocco, Eurofish in Denmark, and we have InfoPesca in Uruguay. We have our main fish info organization in FAO, which is known as Globefish. You can find more of our Infofish in our website that's given below on the bottom right. So looking at the global seafood trade, for the past few months, it has been a challenging time for the global seafood sector. The pandemic has created a weak market environment, and it has brought a lot of operational difficulties for both the fisheries and the aquaculture sector, particularly affecting the labor, also affecting the financing of the sector. We also seen the impact on logistics, and but in spite of every challenging beginning, many producers and retailers have adapted. And in the next few slides, I'll be showing you what are some of these adaptations. We also have new opportunities that have emerged, and also countries have started rolling vaccination programs, and this is a possibility of bringing better consumer confidence and easier facilitation of trade. There have been cases where importing countries have imposed strict sanitary requirements and inspection protocols, and this is one of the issues for exporting countries. So here is a brief preliminary data on the world top 10 fishery exporters in 2020 for last year, and you have the top 10 fishery importers in 2020 also last year. So looking at the exporters side, we have countries in the Asia that are dominating the top 10 fishery exporters, and we have countries in the Europe that are dominating the top 10 fishery importers. So basically, based on this diagram, we can say that the Asia region is a very important region in terms of the supply of fish and fish products to the global region, to the global market. So Asia being known as the producer and market, over the last few years, demand for food fish, including imports, have showed a steady growth, particularly in the Asian markets. For example, in Singapore, the imports of fresh food has increased during the beginning of the pandemic last year. There's also increases in canned seafood, which has literally flown off the shelves in many retailers and supermarkets in the Asia region due to panic buying during the beginning of the COVID pandemic. Demand is also rising in many medium and small scale import markets. For example, shrimp imports in Malaysia, Thailand, and Australia. Besides increasing fishing prices, there's been imports of high value fishery products declining. This is basically because the high value fishery products are depending mostly on the hotel, catering, and the restaurant trade, which has been affected during this pandemic. Imports of Vietnamese pangasius catfish fillet has increased marginally in the top main markets such as China and the US. Asia continues to be the top contribution to global tilapia production, which stands at some 66% last year. Looking at the Pacific Islands, the Pacific Islands is also been affected during this pandemic. The seafood sector in the Pacific Islands has also been affected during this pandemic. You have the coastal fisheries, also the industrial fishing. So the main species in the Pacific Island is tuna. You all know that the waters in the Western and Central Pacific Ocean produces about 60% of the world's tuna. The issue about the seafood sector in the Pacific Island is the distance from markets. There's been reports on the spike in air freight cost, which is a burden to the seafood companies in the Pacific Islands. We also have unreliable schedule for cargo and chartered flights. Also, the direct exports, which are much below compared to the opportunities present. And there is a need to target the P&A countries, whether it be processed or raw fish exports. And also the issues of lack of EU competent authority, which is an issue in most countries in the Pacific Islands. The advantage of these Pacific Island countries is that they own their own fishery. They are listed under the GSP schemes for the US and Japanese markets, making it easier for them to export to these markets. Also, the domestic market is developing, and there's opportunities for value-added products in the Pacific Islands. So here is just a brief summary of how has the seafood industry survived. So on the left, you have the challenges that was experienced during this pandemic and what was being facilitated on the right. So looking at the first one, we all know that the pandemic has disrupted the seafood supply chain or the seafood value chains. What has been done to tackle these challenges? Technology has been one of the key factors in tackling the disruptions in supply chains. There's been increase in door-to-door sales of fish, and this is becoming a new trend. You also have seafood demand and supply imbalance, which is a challenge during this pandemic. So what was facilitated, the suspension of exports and imports have been done by most countries, basically to stabilize the domestic supply and strengthen food security. There's also been loss of markets where countries had to lock down their, their ports and also their airports. So some countries have started to diversify their products and also review consumers' buying power. We have aqua farms and fishing boats that are operating with less farm workers due to movement restrictions. What has been done, funds have set aside to support local fishermen, aquaculture farmers, and seafood processors as well to combat illegal fishing. Major airlines have canceled in most international airports. What was done in this scenario is been pushed for new markets, and there's been divert shipments to the new closer markets. For example, in Indonesia, we've seen an increase in exports to Malaysia and Thailand on shrimp. People went into lockdown, quarantine, work from home. People still wanted to eat, and they still wanted to eat good food. What was being done to this challenge? There's been a strong demand for frozen and shelf-stable seafood. Also, in terms of shifting consumer preference, the exports of processed, ready-to-serve, and canned seafood products have really increased. Another issue is the food safety. So we've seen that there's been an increase in healthy seafoods, such as organic seafoods. Also, another challenge that has been noted here is the high operation cost. What has been done, government has intervened and have provided stimulus packages to those that have been affected. So here is just a illustrations of what delivery platforms that are available in the Southeast Asia. So here we have GrabFood and Foodpanda in Malaysia. That's been very efficient in terms of during these lockdown periods. They have been operating normally, and they have been delivering seafoods to people. We also have institutional retailers in the Asia region. They have updated their online platforms to make it easier for consumers to buy and deliver their products to their homes. We also have producers and processors that have gone also into online sales. For instance, here in Malaysia, we have a fishermen association that has collaborated with the Fisheries Authority to develop an online app where they could sell their fish online and send it to the consumers directly. You also have the use of social media. This is one of the things that have been used mostly in the Pacific, where fishermen have been selling their fish on Facebook and Instagram. The reason being is because you don't need to pay to promote your product online. Also, you get more customers when you're selling it on social media, because a lot of people nowadays are using social media. You also have a new trend now where airlines are also selling seafoods. We all know that the airlines have been badly affected during this pandemic, so they have gone into other business. For example, in Thailand, the Thai Airways have opened up a restaurant where they can only sell in-flight meals, and some of these in-flight meals have seafoods in it, and those are affordable at cheaper prices. We also have Asia. Asia has gone into online sales of fresh and frozen foods, and then they have also delivered these products to their homes of their customers. What are some opportunities that are available here in the Asia or the Pacific region? So in this part of the world, in the Asia, nothing goes to waste. Basically, what I'm trying to say here is that, for a fish product that is being sold in the retail, every part of the fish body is being sold and consumed. So one classic example is salmon. The popularity of salmon in Asia, back in the days, it used to be traditional fillet and steaks, which was very expensive. So people couldn't afford to buy salmon back in the days in Asia, the Asia region. But now, all parts of the imported salmon have been sold in the retail sector, in the retail shops, supermarkets, starting from the head to the trim, skin, to the tail. Those are being sold, and these are sold at prices that are attractive to customers as compared to the high price fillet and steak, which used to be sold back in the days. We also have tilapia that are being sold in street vendors. So we have popular satay that's been consumed mostly in the Thailand and Malaysia, and now they have gone into tilapia satay, which are being sold in street restaurants and other outlets. Also, another good example of product diversification is in Philippines, where the tilapia are being processed as smoked tilapia. They are being processed into ice cream, fish burgers, and also meatballs, and many more. So this is just a classic example of product diversifications in the Philippines. Also, the utilization of tuna byproducts in the Philippines, mainly on fresh chill and frozen tuna, and this is mostly brought out from processing facilities. So based on the analysis that we found, that 40 to 45% of the tuna are considered as tuna byproducts. So basically, the head, the fin, the bone, the scraps, black meat, and the ribs are all being utilized and are sold to the local market for human consumption. So a quick example is this, whereby if you look at the tail of a tuna, it is being processed as frozen tuna tail and then sold out to the restaurants and to customers, and they are prepared as tuna tail curry or fried grilled tuna tail. You also have the belly of the tuna that are being sold frozen, sold as frozen tuna belly, and they are sold and prepared as fried grilled tuna. You also have a variety of value-added products in the Philippines. Tuna byproducts are being processed and made into different products such as Shanghai rolls, tuna fingers, nuggets, tuna rolls, burger patties, and many more. So these are some of the ways in we can diversify your products. So basically, just to quickly go through the future outlook, the pandemic is not over yet, so there'll be some price stability, or even increases in some cases can be expected. Vaccination has started out in the across the world, so it might bring better consumer confidence, and it might facilitate more easier trade. The online seafood trading is something that's going to be an ongoing thing for now. Consumers are eating more at home, so there is going to be an increase in the retail packs for frozen products. So just before I end, I would like to mention here some of the publications that Infofish provides to support exporters, investors, and many more. So we have this Infofish trade news that is being distributed to them, to our subscribers. and this is distributed at fortnightly. So in this Infofish trade news, we have these updated prices of highly traded commodities in the major potential markets. And some examples of these prices include we have the fresh fish prices, frozen fish prices, shrimp prices, tuna, cephalopods, and many more. We also have market news and analysis in this Infofish trade news. So if you would like to get a subscription of this Infofish trade news, you can always send us an email. We also have this Infofish International Magazine. This is to help investors, companies, traders that would like to promote their products. They can always email us to get in touch on this Infofish International Magazine. This magazine is something that's distributed globally. It has articles, it has interviews, and also advertisements and many more, and many reports and all that. So you can have your article or your company advertising in these magazines. We also have this trade directory that is available with us. This is usually popular during international trade fairs. They are described by Asia Pacific exporters and global marketers, and they are useful references for sourcing your suppliers and your potential buyers. They are available in soft copies, so you can always email us if you need a copy. I'm sorry, it's not free, but you will need to pay to get a copy of this. So basically, that's all from me. But before I end, I would like to take this time to thank the organizers for inviting Infofish to be present here and to present to you, to make a presentation to you on the state of seafood in Asia Pacific. I'm happy to take any questions. So thank you so much for listening.